All right. Well, I want to introduce my friend Tamir here. I have known Tamir since high school. We wrestled together way back about 23 years ago, and I've had the honor of watching him professionally grow at every stage of his life. I feel like ever since you stepped out of that mat, you've gone and done something, and you've been just a little bit more successful every time. To give you an idea, I think give and take, by the time you were, 33, 34, you were the general manager of a large dealership in the northern parts of Minneapolis. And then soon thereafter, you bought in to the business and you were a partner as well. Then you left it all to go pursue a passion in directing, producing, and writing a playwright that you wrote yourself. And then you most recently just opened a high-end car and art gallery in San Diego, California. So Tamir has graciously agreed to give me some of his time today. So thank you, Tamir.
Thank you for thanks. Well, first of all, thank you for thinking of me. Obviously, I would take any call for you, but I think you're being overly kind to me. I've been really fortunate and lucky.
Yeah, well, thank you again for the time. And again, I'll just ask you 7 questions and it'll be kind of quick and I won't take up a whole lot of your time. But I just wanted to, as we were going back to high school, just ask you about your work ethic. Again, as I feel like as soon as you left high school, it was like work, 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 work. Like you had this vision of what you wanted your life to do, and you got out of school and you went for it. Can you tell me a little bit of where that came from?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was out of necessity. I found myself, I was never very good in school. I barely graduated high school. I found myself never being able to focus, in class, and I found myself, preoccupied by sports and wrestling. So, I never took my academics very seriously. So by the time I got out and I was watching all my friends around me going off to college, I realized, whoa, what do I have next? And I also, I'm a son of immigrants, and obviously that to me, I watched them really work hard and struggle and do everything they possibly could to provide for me and my four brothers. So obviously, I mean, first and foremost, I think my work ethic comes from them and watching them and witnessing everything they were willing to do for their family. But that also put me in a situation where by the time I graduated high school, I didn't have any money to pay for anything. And I did want and I wanted to go to school, but I couldn't figure out a way to pay for it. So, I found myself in a position of having to go out and do everything I possibly could to build something for myself. I knew I couldn't fall back on my parents. I knew they did everything they could up to that point, and that was all I could ask for them. But I remember still to this day being 14, 15, 16 years old, working at a pizza place by my house just to make money. And I remember I would come home from work and I would have my apron and it would be full of tips. And I would give my apron to my mom, and that would be for her and to do whatever she needed to do for the family. And then I just got whatever I got on the paycheck. And I think back then it was like 4.75 an hour or whatever it was. So whatever I ended up getting on my paycheck was for me, and whatever I got in tips was for her.
Wow.
So, and I thought that was really important for me. I really wanted to make sure that I did everything I could to help take care of my parents as they did for us. So, yeah, I mean, I took everything I learned from wrestling, which I did learn a lot. It was my identity for a long time, 12, 13, whatever many years it was, watching myself and my brothers, grow through the sport. And I realized at that point I had to go into something that I can get instant gratification from, that I can start making money from right away, and that I didn't need an education to do. My brother sold cars, my dad sold cars, and I just thought it'd be an easy transition. But right before I got in the car business, I actually got in the jewelry business.
That's right. That's right.
Um, and I did that for a little bit, and I loved selling, and I loved being in front of people, and I just had this like natural ability to be able to communicate with people. So found myself jumping into the auto industry.
Okay. And then within the auto industry, that's where I remember you for about 1 or 2 years. You kept saying, "Hey, come sell cars, come work with me, come work for me, come work for me," and eventually got me to come work for you. But I definitely saw you transition from different one organization into another. And it seemed that every time that you left one organization, you landed at a better or a different organization at a better role. It was like you took everything that you learn in one and you used it for the to get a better position, a better role? Was it, when you went to the interviews, did you think in mind, okay, I'm going to use what I learned and I'm going to propose this? Or how did you use those experiences to always learn and not have it as a setback, but keep continuing to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, times have changed in the car business. It's not, I think now you have a lot more corporate structure. You have a lot more HR processes. I think you have a lot more roles and responsibilities that are laid out for employees early on and often. But it wasn't like that in the car business for me growing up. I remember you hit the lot. There was no training. You just went out and whoever succeeded, and whoever didn't was out the door in 30 days. And I knew that I knew that for me to succeed in the car business, I had to stand out, way more than just the middle of the pack, because I had a lot of stuff working against me. I hate to say this, but I was, well, number one, I was younger than everybody else around me, 18, 19 years old, where everybody was in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and maybe even older, because the car business was definitely an older, demographic at the time.
Yep.
The workforce was just older in the auto industry. That's just kind of what it attracted. But
Yeah.
I knew, and on top of that, I knew that I was a minority, and I was a minority you know in an industry that didn't have a lot of minorities, in locations that didn't have a lot of minorities. And I knew that I had to, learn as much as I possibly could from the people who have a lot more experience than me. And I knew that I had to take those experiences and self promote myself. I've always been about, building a team. Obviously, is very important. But listen, nobody's going to believe in you more than you can believe in yourself. And I used to always, I had a friend of mine who used to always say, if it wasn't for your mouth, you'd be nothing. And it's probably true to a certain extent, because listen, the one thing I didn't lack in was passion, and confidence, and belief in myself and what I could possibly do. So yeah, I mean, I jumped around early in my career, but I only did it when I felt that I've hit that kind of that wall where I wasn't going to be able to move any further. And I found out really young that once I created that value in the industry, and once people started believing that value, I could ask for anything. Obviously, I had to deliver.
Yeah.
That was important.
Yeah.
I couldn't show up to a place and not deliver. And I knew that. The one thing I always knew is that, just like wrestling, if I stepped on the mat, I knew that I had to win. And if I didn't win, didn't matter how good I did or how hard I tried. To me, it was just, I lost, period. Didn't matter if the person was 10 times better than me or what it was. I lost, and it bothered me. And I took that into going in the auto industry. And I just knew when I showed up, it was game on. I was running, and I was chasing, and I was working harder than everybody. I was the first one in and the last one out. And when I eventually transitioned into a manager, which happened really young for me. I mean, I started managing at a dealership when I was 19 years old. I still to this day say that my general manager was out of his mind for trusting in me. But you know, uh, Joe Christie. Joe
Joe
Christie was the
Christie.
first guy to
Oh,
give me
Joe
a manager job in the auto industry. And it's funny because he wasn't much older than I was when I became a general manager. I think he was like 35 years old. But he knew. I mean, he saw something in me that a lot of people didn't see in me, and he trusted in it. And I took that, and I took what I learned, and I realized it wasn't that hard. You just had to have, a goal. You had to have, the steps to get to that goal, and you had to have laser focus and determination and hunger to get there. If you could get those things, and again, it sounds like a lot, it really isn't that much. um, you know there's so much in between that can get in the way of your success. But for me, I just knew what the end finish line looked like. It was taking care of my parents. It was buying them a house. It was making sure my dad didn't have to work anymore. It was making sure, I'm older now, and people say California has made me soft. So I think these are things that are happening to me, but I think that all actually came from insecurities.
Okay.
Because I wasn't I was labeled the kind of the dumb kid,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
dumb jock or whatever you want to call it. And my insecurities made me really hungry to prove everyone wrong.
Okay.
So everything I did was to prove everyone wrong. making as much money as I can, buying the fanciest cars I possibly can, getting the annoying license plates that said "Now what," whatever the case may be. Rolling around with the ugly pinky diamond ring and the Rolex at like 19. I did everything I possibly could to say, "Look at me, I've made it." And I realized right there and then, hey, other people can do this too. And if you can teach other people around you, especially younger people that weren't entering into the auto industry and into the workforce, if you could teach those people whatever you're doing and try to guide them through their own journey, like you'll be successful and you surround yourself around really successful people. And I'll tell you what, Caesar, in 20 years almost doing this, I've been really lucky. I've had some super talented people around me who've always lifted me up, who've always kind of helped me grow to that next level. And still to this day, I talk to them every day and they call me for advice, or I'll call them for advice, or whatever the case may be. But that to me has been like, if I can sum up everything I've done in my career, I've always been really good at, I want to say I'm the king of delegation. I've just realized, hey, there's people that are better at a lot of things than me. Just put them in the position and let them run.
Let them run. Great. Yeah, that sounds excellent. And I can really resonate with that, being a minority in a white old man business as I am right now. And I'm definitely feeling that the same things that maybe you were feeling back then. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, so you run. You get to where you're a part owner of again a large dealership, and you say, hey, I have this passion that I've been passionate about, that I've been thinking about it for a while. I'm gonna give this all back and I'm gonna go do this. How did this come about? If you don't mind sharing a couple of minutes on that.
Yeah. My wife isn't here, so I could talk about it, because if I talk about Flutter, she wants to kill me. But I got married really young. I had kids really young, and I took on a lot. And I pushed, and I always told myself. I remember telling my parents when I wasn't going to go to school, and I left school, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just going to focus fully on the car business." They wanted to murder me. I mean, they were so mad. It was insane. We didn't leave our country and work this hard for you to go sell cars, da 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 da. And you're better than. And I said, listen, I promise you, by the time, and I literally said this to him, I said, by the time I'm 35 years old, I'm going to be a general manager of a dealership. My dad said, it's never going to happen. Nobody's going to give you the shot. It's run by, nepotism, and it's a good old boys club, and you'll never fit in. And there's not a lot of minority, general managers. And I told him, I said, Dad, I promise you, I'm going to do it. And by the time I'm 40, I'm going to own a dealership. I did everything I possibly could. And in 2017, I was approached by a gentleman who owned a couple new car franchise stores. And he, we sat down and talked, and I explained to him, for me to grow the stores in the way that I knew they needed to grow, I need full autonomy. I need to be able to run. I need to be able to put together a team that I needed to put together. And I needed the opportunity to be able to buy in after proving what I can do. And he was great. He understood. He had a lot of turnover in his stores, for the 7 years prior that he owned the stores. And they just were never generating really any profits. And he did. He handed me the keys and said, "Run." So I took over the stores, and we grew them 5x to the bottom line within 1 year. We grew to almost $300 million in revenue annually. And he came to me and said, "Listen, a deal's a deal. You delivered everything you did, and that's your chance to buy in." And I did. And I came in as a partner, and we put together an amazing team of people. I remember there was a guy who came to me. His name's Sean. He came to me. His brother I brought from sales from another store, and he came and became my finance manager. And went from making $70,000 a year to $400,000 a year, and became my top finance guy. And he came to me and said, "Hey, I got a brother who's working in manufacturing, works in like a factory, making $35,000 a year. I think he'd be a good salesperson." And we sat down with him, and we developed him, and we grew him into an amazing salesperson after 1 year. And then we made him a sales manager, and eventually a general sales manager, making, several $100,000 a year. And, we did that through realizing people's talents. And we did that through really hard work. And we did that through building a really great community of customers. We did a lot of community outreach. And we just did everything we possibly could to make sure that people came to us first and foremost. But fast forward a couple of years, I made a lot of money, and stores did really well. And, to kind of rewind after fast forwarding, I started writing a story while I was in high school.
Yeah.
But I didn't share it with anybody. I was in high school during 9/11 as a Middle Eastern, as a son of immigrants, and I felt a shift. I felt like this paradigm shift. I felt that I started to realize that there's like this newfound racism that's kind of been lying dormant this whole time that I didn't even know existed towards me. I always felt like I was one of everybody. I thought it was, I had white girlfriends. I had white girlfriends, and I partied, and I barely spoke any Arabic, and I didn't practice my religion, and I was as Blaine, Minnesota as Blaine, Minnesota could be back then. And but after 9/11, after 9/11, that shifted quick, and I started finding out that I wasn't accepted the way I thought I was, and I wasn't one of the good old boys. So through my inability to share the emotions I was feeling with everybody, because here was a tough guy jock, four tough guy brothers, so parents who were hardworking immigrants. I wasn't going to go to them and say I feel sorry for myself, or what do I do with all my emotions that I'm dealing with right now. I wasn't going to do that. So I just started writing, and it just shifted. It started as poetry and rap music, and it started as like all these lyrics, and then it started as short stories, and then it kind of just grew over several years into a script for a film. And in 2017, we kind of started shopping at the script around after, my partner, writing partner, George Bafidis, who's an amazing screenwriter in New York. We teamed up together. And after several years, we sent it around to the festival circuits. And, we did, by surprise, being the first script, did really well. We're semifinalists in some really big, Blue Cat film screen festivals, and really big festivals for scripts. And started picking up some interest from some producers, and we ended up getting picked up by a producer that was interested in making into a movie. So I found myself kind of at this weird place, because in 2018, 2019, I was at the top of my career in the auto industry. I was just voted 40 most influential automotive executives under the age of 40 in the country by Automotive News, which was always a dream of mine. Like that didn't even feel like it was believable in my mind. And here I am at, I was 34 years old, or whatever the case may be. And I was at the top of my career, making way more money than I ever thought, and had everything I wanted, but I didn't truly feel fulfilled. My career was great, but I just felt something just missing. So when I had this opportunity to try to go out and make a movie, I went to my wife one day. It was just out of the blue. And I looked at her and I said, I really want to chase this passion. We're in a position where I can do that right now. I have an opportunity to sell my shares back to my partner / boss. And I just really want to focus on trying to do something that I've always wanted to do, and to tell a story that was always very personal to me. That the story of, the script, it's called Radical. And, it was always something that was really, really personal to me. And I thought it was a story that's never been told from an Arab American perspective. So I went all out. I walked away from my career with no plans, just, go. That was my mind, Tamir, go. You've done everything you could in this industry. Try something else, see where it takes you. So I left, and it all came together. I started making amazing contacts. I met actors that I never thought I would meet that really loved the script, that ended up becoming my mentors. And all these things started happening, and then all of a sudden we were set to shoot in April of 2020 in Chicago.
Around there, right?
Yeah. So we were set to shoot, and I mean, there was big names attached to this thing that we had huge conversations with some really big names. It was a big budget project. And then all of a sudden, COVID hits.
Oh, yeah.
And everything stopped. The project got canceled. I was sitting at home with no job, with no movie to make, just really lost and kind of confused. It was a big blow. Yeah. I felt like maybe I did harm to my family. Maybe I walked away from something I shouldn't have. All these things started to go on in my head, and it put me in a crazy spiral. And I started making really bad decisions in life, and I just felt lost. And it wasn't, until a dear friend of mine, Tariq Rasuli, passed away from a drug overdose, unfortunately.
Mm.
Um, I was shattered by it.
Yeah.
And, um, I stepped back and I realized at that moment that I had to tell his story now. And it wasn't exactly his story, but it was definitely the story of the pain and the suffering that can come from the terrible disease of addiction.
Yep.
And it was a disease that I suffered from, and I suffered from for a very long time in life. I was able to mask it through, being a successful business person, but I had it. It was killing me. And I stepped back and I wrote this story called Beauty of Warmth, as a short film. And I put everything I had into this thing to make this movie right. And I ended up directing it, which I never thought I wanted to direct. I thought I was just a writer. I just wanted to write and tell stories. I was voted biggest storyteller in high school, and I just wanted to
Yeah,
tell stories.
I see that.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell stories. That's all I wanted to do. But I was asked to direct it, and all of a sudden I found myself on set, and I was like lost in this moment of like I felt more passion and purpose than I ever felt in my life. And we made this beautiful movie that I felt really, strongly about, and I got really lucky because I ended up partnering up with an amazing artist and musician, Ben Hagerty, also known as Macklemore, who ended up watching the film, agreed to allow us to use his music for the soundtrack, and became a really great friend of mine. Also became a sponsor of mine. We talk every single day, and him and I really started to kind of dig deep on why I was, why I felt so lost and not content and where I was, even though I hit like the top. I mean, I was at the top, and I just wasn't feeling it. But I learned a lot about myself, and I realized that no matter how hard I pushed for my career and how much money I was making, none of it meant anything until here I am, 37 years old, and I stepped back for a second. I said, you know what? I can make movies, but I can also be in the car business. I can do both. You don't have to do one or the other.
Mhm.
And as soon as I realized and stepped back a little bit, I said, there it is. That's what I've been missing. I've been my whole life so hyper focused on chasing this one thing, which was just money, that the second I got it, I felt no purpose.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, we did the movie. I went out, told my wife, all right, I did what I wanted to do. I want to be closer to the film industry.
Okay.
I made a lot of contacts in Los Angeles. I didn't want to live Los Angeles because, for me, I always loved San Diego. So I said, we're going to pack up, move to San Diego, and I'm going to open up a new idea that I have for a car dealer there. I told her about the idea. She thought I was crazy. So did everybody else. What do you mean you want to sell cars and art? um, and it was just something that I really was. I regained that hyper focus. I regained that passion, and I set forth as I did when I left every other job. And I just knew that I would land on my feet as long as I had the right intentions and the right the right focus. I knew something would come together. So here we are in San Diego, California, sitting in my 30,000 square foot gallery that we do exotic cars and art, and I'm happy. I found my purpose again.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm sure you got to run the
Hold
last.
on one second here. I
Yep.
apologize. I have people coming into the gallery here, so give me a minute here.
Yes.
All right. So go ahead. I apologize.
Yeah, no, no worries. That just the last question. I know you got to roll, but you've talked about making money. You've talked about your parents and being son of an immigrant. But what lessons? And because I at the end of the day, I'm interested in like people's perspective on money and how they use it. What did you learn maybe from your parents about money? Like, was it the fact not only had you made the amount of money, but were you also once you got a family and whatnot, were you smart about saving it and whatnot that allowed you to pursue these things that allowed
Yeah.
you to take a couple of years off if you needed to? Like
Sure.
what did they pass along to you about money that you continued to that you learn and that you want to pass on along to your own children?
Oh, whoa. That's a lot of question. I mean, listen, you might have the same experience as me, but For me, my parents struggled so hard to make ends meet. And I watched them year after year start a new restaurant, and it either fell apart and failed, or they had to get rid of it because there was too much time away from the family. So I watched a lot of struggle. And I watched, we struggled for money a long time. But my parents did a good job trying not to let us see that all the time. But they also were very clear that, you can make money, but it doesn't make you. My mom used to always say, the man makes money, but the money does not make man. She always used to say that to me. And she always used to say, it doesn't matter how much money you make. If you're not a good man, it doesn't mean anything. But then she also said to me, there's going to be bad times. You've been really lucky. She always used to say to me, you've been really lucky. And actually, she used to always say, don't be fooled. The only reason I've been so lucky is because I pray for you every day. my mom says that to me every day, still to this day. So, but she always said, there's going to be a time that comes. There's going to be a day that comes where, you're gonna struggle. Doesn't matter how much money you put away. You got to be really ready for it. And she was right. I mean, she was 100% right. And I was really fortunate that I listened to her because, growing up, when I first started making money, I blew it faster than I
was out the door.
I mean, there wasn't a second. If the second I got a paycheck, I got $6,000 paycheck, I'm going to buy a $7,000 watch. Or if I got a $7,000 paycheck, I'm going to go buy a $10,000 this. I was insane with my money. And it wasn't until I got married, and until I had my firstborn, my son, who's almost 13 now. So 13 years ago, I know. That I said, Tamara, that's enough. God's blessed you with amazing things. You've had your fun when it comes to your money, but now it's time to just really start to focus. So I started doing, I started really taking that to heart, and I started putting money away. I think it was Warren Buffett that said, what was it? Spend what you don't save, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And I really took that to heart. I just started taking the majority of what I got as a paycheck, and I just started shoving it away. And when I did that, I found myself in a position that I could be a little more comfortable. I could take care of my family better. I could take care of my parents and do things I wanted to do. And that was really, really good that I did that, because it helped me later on in life to make the crazy decisions that I've made to end up here, and to follow passion projects, and to do things that a lot of people, I tell my friends, that I walked away from my career for 2.5 years. I didn't have a paycheck for 2.5 years. And they're like, how the heck did you do that?
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. I mean, I stuffed it away, and it was great. I made some good investments. I made some bad investments. I probably made a lot more bad investments than I did good ones. But I think I did that because I was doing it on my own. Now that I'm older too, I've also realized that, stay in your lane. I'm really good at making money. I've worked really hard at doing that, but I'm not the guy to control my own money anymore. And trust the people that have a lot more experience in that than you. So, maybe one day when I start making money again, I'll find the right people to manage it.
Oh, sounds good, man. I really appreciate your time, man. I know you got a busy day, and next time that you're in town, let me know, or I'll come visit you. I'm sure
you're not coming to visit me anytime soon. Listen,
you
got 2 babies. You just got 2 twin babies. You're not going anywhere. Okay, mine are grown. I'll come to you.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. That works better. I appreciate it, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you thinking of me. It means a lot, and I'm very proud of you as well, and everything you've done. And I love the man that you become.
Appreciate it, man. I really do. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy. Talk soon. Let me know if you need anything.